The ego. Thought I'd like to discuss the ego and clear up a few things. There seems a lot of confusion, especially in the spiritual community. And fair enough, right? When you're stuck in it, it's hard to see the forest through the trees. Perspective, right? So an outside perspective can be helpful, and that's why we have guides and people who have gone through it. So I found it very helpful, so hopefully it is. Okay, so essentially people know it's the mind, but guess what? This is just what I call the receiver or the receptionist. So as we know, chakra system and nervous system linked to the endocrine glands. Chakras and endocrine glands are essentially the same thing, just a conceptual or a scientific way to explain it. That helped me a lot. And so, of course, these messages are coming up from the coccyx and from below the bottom half of the body, comes up to the brain and then provides us with guidance. For instance, one thing that I'd like to point out is the third eye. It's kind of up there in the mind, isn't it? Yeah. Then Makara point is when one raises their Kundalini, you get to a six-dimensional awareness. It starts to live here. That's also connected to the mind and the nervous system, isn't it? Yeah. And we want to get to Bindu point and have our energy focused here, because that's when we get the really beautiful, cool, super unbelievable spiritual experiences with all the ecstasy and bliss and joy, and you can't even describe it because the conscious mind is unable to perceive these things. All these funky energies going on. So lots of people are denigrating and then having a negative perspective on the mind was, well, not helping. The mind's a great tool when used well, but as we know, the gut brain, solar plexus, is by far the most important part of the body, because that's the one that has all of the nervous system, or so many of the nervous system connections to the rest of the lower half of the body to tell us what's going on. So, those times when we're really connected in our meditation and our slow practices or whatever it is for you, and we get those messages, oh, my liver's not good. I was there. So, for instance, and the way that my mind has changed over doing the cleansing, and of course all of the work is in the lower half of the body, because if we're focused here, it's like going to a company on the ground level and going to see the security guard for directions. Okay, that's great. He can tell you where to go, which floor, and who you want to see. But say we know we want to get to level 5 at this stage of our development. So then he can direct you. But if we want to get to the causes, which is the sixth-dimensional awareness, in the body, then that security guard is not going to be able to help us to get to policy change and to change our patterns to improve ourselves. It's just not going to happen. But it's a good direction. So we get to level 5, and then you get another receptionist there, which is usually the gut. And of course, where do we go from here? I want to change policy. I want to be the best that I can be and achieve my spiritual potential. That receptionist is again another guide. But she's not going to be able to change the policy of what you actually want to achieve and that goal. Fits, right? So, of course, as an example, I obviously do lots of detoxing and cleansing, and the resulting spiritual development is remarkable. I'm loving it. The clarity of perception is ridiculous. Like, see the eyes? Eyes are the windows to the soul. Eyes are linked to the soul plexus. So if we're not doing the work in the gut, we're just getting in our own way, essentially. And of course, so for instance, initially I did lots and lots of liver and gallbladder cleanses and had all my herbs and my diet and everything for that particular imbalance, because I was a conscious mind and a subconscious mind angry prick sometimes when I was off balance, And of course, each time that I cleansed, I felt all this anger come out, all these stories, all these past history of like being angry at my father, angry at society, angry at this, angry at that. And I would run, I got up to 100-kilometer ultra marathons trying to detoxify my body and my liver and gallbladder. Because I didn't know it was disconnected from the circuitry. So I didn't know what kind of condition I was in. And of course that created more fungus in my body because I over-exercised and I was unable to slow down. And then when I came across meditation, I started to realize all my maternal issues in the spleen, because that liver and spleen axis is hugely important, especially for fire people. So I couldn't relax until I'd exercised. But then when I was relaxing, I thought I was relaxing king. I thought I was like, oh, this is something so deep. Nah. It was only when I started to slow down and cleanse and get rid of the gunk, which is essentially the controlling aspect of the ego, then those messages came to the mind to actually action and fix it. Because unless we're doing it in the body, the person is just stuck in their head, and that's a distraction, which is exactly what the spleen fungus does to an individual's behavioral patterns. Tricky, yeah. So once I got to 6 and 7 dimensional awareness, I started to recognize that, okay, it's the nervous system imbalances, because they're up here in the ether element, once I got aligned. And also, fungus is responsible for apathy and distraction. Like, I'm doing a cleanse now, and I was like, oh, you know, half an hour moving around just doing little things that are helpful, but not on task of what my soul's purpose was in this particular instance. It happens all the time. And of course, once I fixed up a few things in my body and got my biochemistry up to scratch and supreme, I was able to target. And that's what I need to do, and I can go and do it right now and take the action, get the steps quickly, easily, and efficiently, rather than having to, what I call, putting fires out, starting fires. Fire people, we're good at this. So, for instance, what I conceptually I call it firebombing. So if you get a bow and arrow and you've got because we've got lots of fire, right? We can go around and do everything. We've got lots of energy. It's always there. But how well are we utilizing it? Is the question. So if we've got a 12 arrows in our quiver, and we just light them up and go, thum, 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 we just created an entire bushfire in our entire lives, and annoying people sometimes and not playing nice. It happens, right? So then we've got to go and try and put them out. And it's, you know, can you forgive me? Oh, sorry about that one. I wasn't 100% on task. You know, it wasn't me. It wasn't nice. All that not so cool stuff. And people can just write them off. I've done it many times, right? Because fire people do. We kind of got like a hand grenade here. And if we don't sort out our digestion and cooling properties and herbal remedies, then we're just got a hand grenade of fire bombing everywhere. But we're great, we're awesome. But of course, our nervous system is only connected to there, so we get a lot of gas and reflux. And that creates delusion and smoke in front of our eyes. Because that hand grenade just went boom, and there's shrapnel everywhere. And that shrapnel causes inflammation everywhere in the body, and it's because that's the subconscious mind. We may not be aware of what we're actually doing. And of course, of the behavioral effects and the bodily effects below that hand grenade. We're just unaware because the nervous system's been burnt and fried. This is how people get chronic fatigue, and personal trainers end up, boom, on their back because they burn their adrenals and their kidneys. So this makes meditation practice hugely a big, massive advantage, and slowing down. So of course the ego doesn't really connect with that because of the nervous system disconnections. Again, making a regular yoga or asana practice or any intelligently designed movement, qigong and tai chi are fantastic. Martial arts also. And chiropractic treatment, absolutely essential if we want to actually realize ourselves and become a more complete human with a more complete nervous system. And of course, anyone Okay, but for those people who say they've never been in their body, that means their nervous system is disconnected here. So below that, there is no chance, or very little chance, of them actually connecting with the problems in their body because they haven't got enough nervous system energy to realize that. As we detox and cleanse and we get rid of the gunk and we expand our nervous system, we start to get the messages and the stories of going, oh, I've been doing that, I've been angry at my father for 50, 30 years or 40 years, whatever it is. Because of the gallbladder. It's been toxic. Anyone who's bald, that's toxic gallbladder. So they think, how many balding scientists who think they're incredibly intelligent don't realize that they've got a toxic gallbladder? And their mind and their nervous system is cut off here, so anything on topic in that nervous system below that will not receive the messages. And it's just their mind or their ego telling them that they're fantastic. Oh, I'm super smart. So, you missed this, and that. Because they're stuck in their tiny little conscious mind. And of course, they haven't realized that this conscious mind creates what we call Shumna, or that channel, or the alimentary canal is another way to put it. And their nervous system is so disconnected up here that they're unable to reach the sides of the body where a lot of gunk is stored, and that's where fungus and parasites and things like and mucus plaque and all the toxins in there really like to live. Because there's no fire out here, they're protected, they're creating a castle in a defensive environment for them to thrive, essentially controlling the mind. Because they just cut off the nervous system. It's ingenious, really. It does take a fair bit of extra work than just sitting there thinking that we're fantastic at sending energy. What else is in that energetic entity that is below that person's awareness? I can tell you it's generally a toxic waste dump. And that's what people call the mind, or the ego, and they're associating with their imbalances. Welcome to society. And of course, because most people are thinking that they've got a toxic gallbladder, they're that angry prick. They have to go to the pub and find the other angry prick to have a fight with. But they're great, they're tough, they're strong. What about all the rest of it, bro? They don't know what's in their body because they're simply unable to, because they haven't taken the path. They don't know. It's just unaware. So, and of course, people will attach their psyche and their job or their role to their imbalances because they're not fixing it and they're generally making themselves worse. And that imbalance that the person has, guess what? Unless they fix it, not just think about it, take the action necessary to improve it, they'll simply die from that. Because they're just making it worse, but they're subconsciously unaware of the rest of their body. And that's why we have so many people who have cancer. And what's the most popular cancers? Prostate and colon cancer and breast cancer. That's all. And of course, the heart connects to the sacral. It's just that the nervous system is not connected to it, so they miss it. They're unaware. They're disconnected from it. All the disease and all the stuff comes from below. So unless we're colon cleansing, colonics are fantastic, then the person will never understand, and they'll always be coming from a fear-based place because their kidneys are burnt out, and drinking coffee is the worst thing you can possibly ever do. And they're coming from their imbalances in the bottom half of the body where all these disgusting little critters are controlling the subtleties of the body. And in fact, anyone who says, I'm not in my body, they don't realize that the rest of the stuff that's under there, they've just burnt it. It's a decrepit toxic waste dump that has essentially burned the nervous system and absolutely destroyed their chakra or endocrine glands. And some of these people are calling themselves spiritual teachers and gurus and healers. But yet they're incredibly fear-based and insecure, and most of the time they don't see it because it's subconscious below their nervous system capacity. Not so sure, huh? Better get detoxing and cleansing and improving and nourishing in the body because it's nurturing. It's absolutely wonderful. because the subtleties of life come from having a subtle body awareness, and we get all the peace, love, joy, and happiness, and ecstasy, and beautiful spiritual experiences that we get to share that with others. Heaps cool. So, the mind and the ego, what is it? It's the imbalances and toxins in the body that have got the messages to the brain. Guess what? Fix it. And then we can get a higher level of brain awareness and connect our nervous system in the front brain. And then we actually get higher brain function with another 12 extra functions and psychic abilities. It's outstanding. Highly recommend it. Feel free to let me know if you want me to show you how to do it. Of course, it's heaps cool.